Botany is the study of plants, including their physiology, structure, genetic, and classification. Surely you know that a plant is mainly made up of the roots, stems, leaves, flowers, seeds, and fruits. But do you know what these elements are like and what they are for? Their structures divide in two sections: root system, the underground part, and shoot system, the upper part conforming the leaves, flowers, and seeds. We're going to use this map to organize ourselves better. We start with the base of the plant, the roots. There are two main root systems: the fibrous, which is when the main root fails to develop, and, in its place, numerous roots of the same thickness appear that originate from the stems. The other root type is the taproot, which is primarily root that grows vertically downwards. It forms a center from which other roots can sprout laterally. Taproots can also be called primary roots because they grow directly from the plant embryo. Taproots that enlarge to store large quantities of food are called fleshy roots. In resume, fibrous system has many roots, taproot has principally one. As they are the base and the plant support, growing seasons determines their time alive, so the lifetime of the plants. Annual plants just live one growing season, biennial plants live 2 growing seasons, and perennial last until 15 growing seasons. Roots can be differentiated from others by the types of branching. Two main examples are the spire-like, which has a strong central trunk, and the spreading branch, which has several main branches close to the ground. Root structure. Root hairs structures greatly increase the water-absorbing surface area of the root. Inside the epidermis is the root's food storage region called the root cortex. The cortex surrounds the root's central vascular cylinder. It contains xylem tissues, which carry water to the stem, and phloem tissues, which carry food back to the root. Root cap, which consists of several layers of talc cells that protects the tender root tip as it pushes its way through the soil. Root growth. Primary growth. Apical meristem, responsible for forming the epidermis, the cortex, and the vascular cylinder. This growth is accomplished by cells undergoing cell division to increase the number of cells in the root. This increase of meristematic cells results in growth in length of the root. Secondary growth. It is a growth layer of meristematic cells located between the xylem and phloem, called the vascular cambium. Vascular cambium cells carry on cell division and make it possible for this type of roots to grow in diameter. Then, a cork cambium is formed beneath the epidermis. It replaces the epidermis and forms a protective layer of cork that also prevents the roots from absorbing water. Growth regions. The increasing length of the root is observed in 3 different regions of the root tip. The region closest to the end is called the meristematic region. Here, cell division takes place, adding new cell to increase the root's length. Just above the meristematic region is the region of elongation. In this region, cells increase in length, pushing the root further into the soil. The third region of growth is the maturation region, in which cells organize into the vascular cylinder. Root hairs grow from epidermal cells in this region. Absorption and transformation. Root hairs absorb water and minerals by allowing them to pass through the cell membrane and enter the cell. These are permeable to certain substances. Diffusion. Molecules always diffuse toward areas where there are fewer molecules of that type. In a visual example, it is like when you add a drop of food coloring to a glass of water, you can see one effect of these random molecular motion. Dye molecules collide with the water molecules until the dye permeates the water, making the dye gradually spread throughout the water. Osmosis. Small molecules such as water can pass from one side of the membrane to the other by diffusion, but larger particles such as dissolved salt or sugar cannot pass through. Such a one-way diffusion through a semi-permeable membrane is called osmosis. Most nutrients and gases needed by living cells are in the form of solutions, water containing dissolved substances. Substream. After root hairs absorb water by osmosis, the water and absorbed minerals must flow up through the xylem tubes. Several factors drive the flow of the substream. Root pressure. The osmotic force that helps move water to the vascular cylinder also helps transfer water up the stem. Another factor is capillarity. The upward movement of liquids through a very narrow tube occurs in plants because the attraction of water molecules to the surface of the xylem tubes is greater than their attraction to each other. Root pressure and capillarity by themselves cannot supply the force needed to raise water high into the plant or tree. The chief force that draws water up the stem is the transpiration pull exerted by the leaves. As water evaporates from the leaves by transpiration, the leaf cells become deficient in water and tend to pull water into themselves in an attempt to establish a water balance. This pull is strong enough to draw the substream from the roots to the top of the tree. Leaves. Parts and classification. The flat portion of a leaf is the blade. One way to distinguish the leaves of a particular plant is by the margin of the blade. It may be smooth, toothed, or looped. Veins are the pipelines that carry food and water throughout the blade. Many leaves have a large vein called the midrib. Petiole. It attaches a blade to the stem and contains vascular tissues that conduct substances between the blade and the stem. Leaves that lack a petiole are referred to as sessile leaves. Stipules are small scale-like structures that help to cover the leaf when it is developing. Buds. In the cold winter months, they remain dormant and are covered by small appendages called backscates. With the warm sunshine in springtime, new leaves spring forth from the buds. Venation. The pattern of the veins within leaves. There are three main types. Parallel venation. The veins are usually parallel to each other along the length of the leaf. Pinnate venation. The veins are in a ranking pattern, characterized by the one midrib with smaller veins extending outward from it. Palmate venation is characterized by two or more major veins extended outward from one point like the fingers extending from the palm of a hand.
There are two leaf structure types, simple and compound. Simple leaves, like an elm. There is one blade in each petiole. Each blade represents one simple leaf. Compound leaf, like the pecan. There are many blades on each petiole. Each blade is a leaflet.
Internal structure. Epidermis provides covering and protection for both the upper and lower leaf surfaces. The waxy cuticle helps the epidermis to prevent water loss from the leaf. The lower epidermis of leaves contains tiny openings called stomata, or leaf pores. The main purpose of stomata is to allow air to move into and out of the leaves. Oxygen is needed for respiration, and carbon dioxide is needed for photosynthesis. Stomata also regulates transpiration, the loss of water vapor from leaves and stems. Mesophyll. It is here where most of the photosynthesis takes place. There are two types. The polycyst mesophyll is located toward the upper side of the leaf and consists of elongated cells, which resemble a palisade. Below the palisade layer is a spongy mesophyll. This layer consists of irregularly shaped cells separated by large air spaces. The air spaces between the spongy mesophyll cells are called intercellular air spaces. They form a system of passages throughout the leaf that permits air to come in contact with individual cells so that each cell can obtain needed oxygen and carbon dioxide. Veins of the leaf run through the mesophyll layers and contain the vascular tissue. Each vein contains xylem that brings water and mineral-containing sap into the leaf, and phloem that transports sap consisting of manufactured food out of the leaf. Tissue types. Living material that is constructed in such a way as to perform a particular task for the organs of an organism is called tissue. Structural tissue. Three types. Epidermal tissue. Protects and covers leaves, roots, stems, and other exposed areas and prevents excessive water loss and injury by outside agents. Cork tissue. Protects and waterproofs the stems and certain roots of woody plants. It is not found in herbaceous plants. Parenchyma. Makes and stores food. Sap. Sweet liquid found within the vascular tissue of plants. There are two types. The first type is water with dissolved minerals that moves upward from the roots to the leaves. The second sap consists of food materials that have been made in the leaves and dissolved in a small amount of water to be transported downward to the stem and roots. Meristematic tissue consists of rapidly growing and dividing cells that differentiate to produce new tissues during the plant's growing season or when the plant needs to repair or replace worn-out tissue. Inside a plant cell, it's like a self-contained city with its own chemical factories, food warehouses, waste disposal facilities, and transportation networks. Parts. Cell membrane separates it from its environment and regulates what enters and leaves the cell. Nucleus controls cell's activities. Cytoplasm consists of the many molecules and organelles that make up the cell and of the fluid medium that surrounds them. Cell wall chain structures gives cellulose fibers great strength and flexibility. Chloroplasts tiny chemical factories that use light to manufacture food. Chloroplasts contain chlorophyll. Vacuoles store food materials, fluid substances, and minerals. Wilting. As the days grow shorter in autumn, the leaves of deciduous trees cease to form new chlorophyll, and the old chlorophyll they contain begins to deteriorate. Some of these pigments and the colors they produce. Xanthophyll produces yellowish colors. Carotene produces yellowish-orange colors. Anthocyanin produces bright red, blue, and purple colors. They can mix each other. The abscission layer of cells forms at the base of the petiole, severing the connections between the petiole and the stem. A special enzyme called cellulase then weakens the cell walls of the abscission layer, allowing the leaf to break off under its own weight. The water within the guard cells produces a pressure called turgor pressure. When the guard cells are filled with water, they are turgid, and the stomata are open. A high rate of transpiration may produce wilting. Temporary wilting occurs when transpiration takes place faster than the roots can absorb soil water, causing the plant cells to lose their turgor. When this happens, leaves that have wilted in the daytime will recover during the night, when transpiration is reduced. Permanent wilting, resulting in the loss of leaves, or even the death of the plant, can occur when there is a drought and there is not sufficient soil water to replace that loss by transpiration. Special leaves. Botanists list several reasons why tendrils, bud scales, spines, fleshy storage leaves, and other special leaves are considered to be leaves. Here are two of those reasons. Buds often form at the place where special leaves are attached to the stem, just as they form where ordinary leaves are attached to the stem. Even though their external appearance differs, special leaves have the same basic tissue structure as foliage leaves. Tendrils are special leaves or stem of vines that have the unique function of holding the vine upright by coiling around some support structure. Spines are special protective leaves that have no chlorophyll. Insectivorous plants contain chlorophyll to manufacture their own food but can't obtain not nitrogen for building proteins from the bodies of their victims, allowing the plants to grow in nitrogen-poor soil.